He was humiliated and ignored, judged only by his appearance as an unworthy guest. The manager looked down on him, not realizing who was truly sitting at that modest table by the entrance. Soon this insignificant guest's words would shatter the restaurant's flawless reputation and impact the entire industry. Marcus Green, a renowned food critic with an impeccable reputation, was a black man with a sharp gaze and a calm demeanor. Over the years, he'd uncovered many restaurants, exposing the truly outstanding ones, as well as those hiding behind a veneer of sophistication. His reviews were read by thousands, so Marcus always aimed to remain unnoticed, so his presence wouldn't alter staff behavior. On this evening, Marcus chose a prestigious downtown restaurant that had a mixed reputation, praised for its refined cuisine, yet quietly criticized for its arrogant staff. Dressed in simple jeans and a button-down shirt, Marcus stepped inside, surveying the modern interior with soft lighting and mirrored walls that gave the place an air of luxury. He was immediately spotted by Peter Harris, a tall blond man with a cold, calculating gaze. As the restaurant manager, Peter was accustomed to assessing guests based on appearance. Seeing Marcus's understated attire, he decided that this visitor clearly didn't fit the establishment's style. Perhaps he even assumed Marcus was just a passerby, popping in out of curiosity. With a dismissive smile, Harris gestured toward a table near the door, a spot usually given to guests who only stay briefly for coffee or while waiting. Marcus thanked him courteously, though he couldn't ignore the hidden derision behind the manager's professional smile. Peter didn't bother to approach him again, even leaving him without a menu. Marcus watched as Peter courteously greeted new guests, people in expensive suits with clear signs of affluence. He personally handed them menus and enthusiastically recommended the special dishes. Marcus waited for a disinterested waiter to take his order and then continued observing. He was served plain water without lemon, while other guests received more sophisticated drinks the moment they were seated. He watched as the staff doted on important guests, eager to meet their every whim. This secret critic realized that this restaurant was a textbook case of an establishment that served customers by status rather than with genuine respect. Every ignored request and each cold glance was filed away in Marcus's memory, and he realized that he already had ample material for a scathing review. As the evening went on, Marcus became increasingly aware that choosing this restaurant was no coincidence. It felt like fate had led him here to reveal yet another slice of prejudice, present even in this prestigious place. He decided to stay and complete his dining experience, to fully grasp and feel the treatment here, as though ranked on an invisible scale of significance. When his order finally arrived, Marcus immediately noticed the carelessness in its presentation. It was served haphazardly, and the dish looked hastily prepared. Comparing it with the artfully plated dishes at nearby tables, he couldn't ignore the stark difference. The plates for neighboring diners were arranged like works of art. Marcus looked at his dish in silence, patiently waiting for an opportunity to rectify the oversight. He raised his hand to get the waiter's attention, but instead the manager himself, Peter Harris, approached his table. Harris's smirk was openly mocking. Before Marcus could say anything, the manager cast a brief glance at his plate and, sighing, said, "What, don't like it? I guess not everyone can appreciate our cuisine." Marcus, holding back his disappointment, politely pointed out that the dish didn't meet the standards expected of a restaurant of this class. To this, Harris responded with thinly veiled sarcasm. "You know, we're not a charity here. If you don't like something, maybe you should look for another place." These words struck Marcus deeply, reminding him of the countless instances of discrimination he'd faced throughout his life. It was disheartening to realize that even in a place where professionalism should be paramount, he was still judged by his appearance and skin color, rather than being respected as a guest. Instead of giving in to his anger and leaving, Marcus decided to stay and finish his meal, giving the establishment one last chance to show a modicum of professionalism. Unexpectedly, a young, visibly embarrassed waiter approached his table quietly. Apologizing for the manager's behavior, he offered Marcus a small, well-presented appetizer on the house. The waiter, blushing slightly, explained, "We all want to serve guests well, but not everyone here decides who deserves that attention." Marcus nodded with a slight smile, thanking the waiter, and realizing that not all staff shared their boss's views. But internally, he knew his mind was made up. This experience would not go unmentioned. Marcus would write an honest yet scathing review. The next day, Marcus sat at his computer, crafting a detailed review that captured not only the specifics of his visit, but also the emotional weight of the experience. He carefully described his disappointment with the service, the cold and belittling attitude of Peter Harris, and the humiliation he felt, being shut out from attentive service and the fine dishes reserved for special guests. The sense of bias, the feeling of being deemed unworthy of a place like this, was so profound that Marcus couldn't leave it unexpressed. In his review, he cited specific incidents, like the lack of a menu and the dismissive remarks and mocking tone of the manager. Marcus's words read like a powerful indictment, exposing the systematic discrimination that the restaurant hid behind a facade of luxury and style. He published the review on multiple popular restaurant review platforms and in a local newspaper, reaching both residents and industry insiders. The public's reaction was swift. Within hours, comments began flooding his post. People were outraged by the restaurant's behavior, with many expressing support for Marcus, and some even sharing their own stories of similar treatment at this and other establishments. Soon, the review went viral, and major news outlets picked up the story, publishing articles about the incident. Other restaurant owners who closely followed their competitors' reputations also showed solidarity and expressed regret that such a prestigious place had allowed itself such behavior. Some openly emphasized the need to fight discrimination in the hospitality industry, where every customer should be valued. Amid the growing wave of outrage and discussion, the restaurant started losing patrons. Regular customers, disappointed in the restaurant's reputation, refused to return, feeling that their patronage would be a silent endorsement of discrimination and disrespect toward others. Within days, the restaurant's popularity plummeted. Tables were left empty, and the number of cancelled reservations rose by the hour. The restaurant's management had no choice but to recognize that this scandal had irreparably damaged their reputation. The situation became critical, with mass client departures and dwindling revenue. When management received reports of the negative buzz and declining profits, they immediately took action, calling Peter Harris in for a meeting. Harris, confident in his position, initially dismissed the situation as a temporary crisis, fueled by a small group of dissatisfied people. But when confronted with reviews and data showing the steep drop in revenue, his confidence started to wane. The restaurant's reputation loss was not only a financial hit, but also a blow to its image, and the management demanded an explanation. Peter tried to justify his actions, blaming Marcus Green. He claimed the critic came dressed inappropriately, looking like an ordinary visitor, defending his actions as a means of preserving the restaurant's prestige. He insisted he was acting in the restaurant's best interests, but management saw that his arrogance and dismissive attitude toward guests could not be excused. They made it clear that his behavior risked the customer base and reputation they had built for years. Informed that he would have to leave, Harris was shocked. He tried to argue, but his words sounded hollow. Left alone in the office, Peter began to realize that his prejudice against people who didn't fit his ideal had led to ruin. He had to acknowledge that the discrimination and contempt he once saw as acceptable had destroyed not only his career, but also the restaurant's reputation. For Peter, this was a moment of self-reflection. He understood that his arrogance and superficial judgments had turned against him, making him feel the same cold judgment he had once inflicted on others. This experience forced him to rethink the value of respect for people, regardless of their appearance or status. At the story's conclusion, Marcus saw the impact of his review as he watched society rally around his stance. He realized that his honest and fair opinion had made a difference, drawing attention to the problem of discrimination. His words had catalyzed a discussion within an industry still plagued by prejudice. For Marcus, this was a reminder of the importance of his mission: to reveal the true quality of not only the food, but also the attitudes in public spaces. Leaving this restaurant behind, he continued his work, feeling that his words could not only shape the fate of individual establishments, but also help promote equality and respect across society's values.